Hello everyone and welcome to this Future Net Zero interview. Today I'm glad to be joined by Christel Galburn-Noel from Schneider Electric. Christel, thank you for joining me. You're segment president for mobility. Where do you see us on the journey towards clean transport?
We see a very interesting moment currently with the EV vehicles. As the overall car market is dropping due to the pandemics. Obviously, in absolute figures, the EVs are also decreasing a little bit. But when we look really concretely at the figures, the total EV share inside those cells are increasing. And we see it particularly in Europe, and this is definitely due to the enforcement of the CO2 regulation in 2020. And I think the first half of the year in Europe, the EV sales have increased from 2% of the market shares to more than 10%. And for the first time, Europe sales in absolute figures have overpassed China, which is showing again that even though we are in a market that is difficult due to the economic crisis, the EV movement has definitely started to increase.
Have we reached peak car, do you think, yet?
For sure. I mean, this movement is not a one-year phenomenon. It will last. It will continue to increase for many good reasons. The first one is that because these EV cars are decreasing in terms of prices, and this is due to the battery prices that have continuously decreased throughout last years and will continue. This is due also to the fact that the EV experience for owner is an unprecedented one. And I don't know whether you have already experienced or whether you're an owner of an EV car, but all the feedbacks from EV owners show that they are 95% satisfied and they will never go back to an ICE vehicle. So, and finally, obviously, the movement is pushed by regulations in Europe, but also countries and cities that have decided to gradually ban the sales and the usage of the internal combustion engine all over the world. So this is, for me, giving a good sight of an EV trend that will continue to accelerate and that has really started a big jump this year.
And like you said, it's being driven by policy and regulations, but it's only actually happening really because of the prices coming down, isn't it? Because unless companies can afford to electrify their fleets and people on the street can afford to electrify their personal cars instead of their diesel or petrol cars, nothing's actually going to change, is it?
Yeah, and you're right to mention those company cars movement, because I think that definitely that they will be the ones maybe to be in the front of the electrification adoption. And we see more and more positive balance globally, economically, for the EV adoption. And when you look at the prices of the car, the usage consumption, the maintenance decreasing, and overall the used car price, more and more EVs, more and more companies are shifting to EVs. And that's particularly the case of Schneider Electric. We have decided, as you know, to commit to the EV 100 campaign, and we will electrify 100% of our company cars by 2030. We are working with pilot countries like Germany, like UK, like US to see how we can accelerate this adoption of company cars electrification.
And what opportunities and challenges does Schneider see in this electrification journey? Because 2030 is only a decade away. There must be a lot of benefits that you see to gain, but also some barriers standing in your way at the moment.
So the opportunities are definitely going through a climate change situation. We know that the electric cars are the ones that in the transportation will contribute to a better life cycle emission of GHG around the cycle. So the electrification of cars is definitely an opportunity to contribute to the climate change measures in order to stay to a 1.5 to 2 degrees global warming. And moreover, I would say this is also opportunities for creating new jobs, creating new opportunities in terms of economic development. And if I take the example of the batteries, we know that the EVs today are mainly supplied by batteries coming from Southeast Asia, where the industry is currently happening. But more and more, there is a need to localize those battery productions in Europe, closer to the car manufacturers. This is a fantastic opportunity for creating a new job, green jobs in the global transition of the energy. And you know that the European community has created a European Battery Alliance to which we are participating. And we are truly convinced that this industry can positively contribute to climate change and transition of the energy, and providing new jobs in this current environment crisis.
Yeah, and these, you mentioned the factories there, how they need to be more localized. People might have heard of gigafactories, where they're producing these massive factories, putting out millions and millions of batteries. But not all of those batteries are being used in EVs, are they? Grid scale batteries are also going to be important in this journey for storage.
Yes, for sure. But you know, in terms of capacity needs for batteries, the first market that will need them is the EVs. And as a consequence, battery storages in utilities, in buildings, will definitely benefit from the massive capacities that will have to be installed for the EV cars. So the EV car trend is bringing two things. First of all, capacity increase all over the world, particularly in Europe. And second, the trend of decreasing costs and making those batteries as affordable as possible. In 2010, the price of a battery was roughly a little bit more than $1,000 per kilowatt hour. We are already at around $125, $26, so we have decreased by 85%. And all car manufacturers and all battery manufacturers see a trend of going below $100 per kilowatt hour. And this will contribute obviously to the affordability and the adoption of the electrification of mobility. But as a consequence, it will also benefit for all kinds of applications for battery storage.
So at the moment at Future Net Zero, our in focus is all about EVs, and we're actually exploring how sustainable are EVs, because a lot of people think of them as clean cars. They are cleaner, it seems, over their lifetime than internal combustion engine vehicles, but they're not necessarily entirely sustainable at the moment because they need lots of cobalt, nickel, and lots of mining to take place for their construction and the batteries. So do you think EVs are green necessarily?
So this is a very good question, and is driving a lot of debates all over the place, and you are right to mention that point. When we talk about sustainability, there are different points we need to talk about. You are mentioning the cobalt, lithium. For sure, this is a point of attention. By the way, the chemistry of the batteries are regularly evolving in order to improve the usage of, for example, cobalt, shifting from what we call the 622 kind of chemistry to a 811 kind of chemistry to save cobalts. Lithium is not a problem at all. What you need also to remind is that in the current engines, the depollution of the diesel engines is using a lot also of rare metals. So if we talk about rare metals, I'm not sure we should compare apple to apple, and I'm not sure the batteries are worse than the current engines. Now there is a second aspect to sustainability, which is the global CO2 emission and GHG life cycle emission of an EV car. And obviously EVs running with electricity, after they are in start of usage, the electricity consumption highly depends on the energy mix of each country. Some countries being more still fossil fuel electricity producing, other ones being more renewable or zero carbon, like in France with nuclear power. And we know that all those countries are definitely going through a massive renewable mix improvement. So if today the mix of the energy inside each country might still be fossil fuel based, it will improve in the future. But however, it still remains at the favor of the EVs. The second aspect of the electricity usage is when you produce the EV car, and particularly when you produce the batteries. And we are highly convinced that we absolutely need, in order to have the best GHG emission life cycle total status, we absolutely need to work on having the greenest possible battery production by including, first of all, renewables in the battery plants. Second, ensuring the maximum efficiency of the energy usage. And third, being able to buy as much as the remaining energy would be concerned, some green energies outside. When I'm talking about energy efficiency, I think we have all the tools today through digitization to really collect the data and improve drastically the energy consumption at the battery production, but also in all kind of energy consumption, whatever in the buildings, in the plants, or in the industries.
Well, that's Schneider Electric's bread and butter, isn't it? The digitization
Exactly.
and the optimization.
Exactly, and this is definitely why we are very focused today on the battery productions. We know the capacities will increase drastically. We know there is a true point of interest to be as neutral as possible in terms of CO2. And that's why we have also decided to support this initiative from the European community. And by the way, you may have seen that end of July, there was the creation of a new gigafactory called Verkor, to which Schneider Electric as venture capital has decided with key additional partners to support and to help the incubation.
Yeah, I did see that, and I think it's definitely a step in the right direction, as you imagine. Whether EVs are entirely sustainable, yet, like you say, they're evolving every day and making leaps and bounds ahead of their traditional counterparts. So thank you very much for talking with me, and I look forward to seeing the rest of the journey.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Have a good day. Bye.